Writing a killer comic script is easy. Super easy. Kind of. So you've got a great idea for a comic story and you're ready to start your first issue of your new comic. There are a few ways you can go about this, but the most common way is to write out a script. This is the document that tells the artist how to build out the interior pages of your comic. Also, if you're using a letterer, they'll need to use the script to put the final dialogue in the book. While a script is the most common way to start, some creators and artists prefer to use storyboards, rough pictorial outlines of the story which might sketch out character positions, panels, key action moments, and so on. If you're an artist and you're planning on creating your comic from scratch, you might not even need a script or a storyboard. You can just start sketching out the pages and go from there. But for the purposes of this video, we'll assume that you're a first-time creator who isn't an artist and you're going to write a comic script from scratch. Depending on your relationship with the artist you'll be working with, you might write a very loose script, just a few lines with some key ideas of what you want to happen on each page. You'll work with the artist and then let them build out the layouts of each page before moving on to the penciling stage. Or you might want to produce a fully polished, fully edited script with all the trimmings. In this case, you might edit your draft sketch several times and even have a professional editor take a look at it before involving the artist. For me, I tend to land somewhere in the middle. I'll write a full script with all the details I think the artist needs to get started, but there's a reason you hire an artist to do the artwork. It's because they're good at their job, and if they weren't good, you wouldn't hire them. So I like to let the artist have input in the script, suggest changes, and then go back and forth with them a little until we land on the final shape of the story. It all comes down to personal preference and your working relationship with your creative team. While there are a million different ways to write a script, the basic elements typically include page and panel numbers, rough directions for the artist as to the background and main action on each panel, character dialogue, any notes around what's happening behind the scenes or upcoming action that the artist might need to know about. Most of your script pages will look a little something like this. You'll have a number of panels laid out, typically 3 to 5 panels, with some basic descriptive details of what's going on in each panel. As a side note, a panel is typically a box of artwork contained within the larger page. These can be small or large, square or rectangular, or any other shape. They can stand alone or neatly together, or they can impinge on one another depending on the artistic direction of the page. So here's an example of a single script page. As you can see, the page has 4 panels, a brief description of each scene, and basic character dialogue. One key to writing dialogue in comics is that space is at a premium. When you're writing a comic, you want to showcase the artwork rather than hiding it with dialogue. If there's a way to say what you're saying a little more concisely, try and do that. For any of you lucky enough to have your hot little hands on some of the first comics I produced, you will see there is way too much text in there. So you can see by this page that by reading the script, the artist gets a clear idea as to where the scene is set, which characters are acting, and what the general vibe of the story is at this point. And that's something to remember. The key purpose behind this script is to provide a clear picture for your artist, so they can understand the story and start to imagine how they can turn words into artwork. And here I must emphasize, because it's worth hearing, clarity is the key. You don't want to write a novel, you don't want to waste the artist's time with pages of extraneous text, world building, explanations, and so on. You're trying to get across the basic vibe of your story, key moments in the narrative, the overall setting, details like that. The rest will come as you start seeing the artwork and working with your artist on the finished story. A standard comic book issue is typically 22 pages long, so your script will be around 24 to 26 pages if you're including a little background information up front. In addition to standard comic pages, you might want to also include the odd splash page, a page with no panels which features a single piece of art, typically an action sequence or a big dramatic reveal. You'll probably change the number of panels on the page depending on how heavy dialogue is in that particular area of the story, typically including less panels in more dialogue-heavy pages because those words are going to take up space. For dialogue instructions, it'll also help if you can indicate the different types of words which are going to be used in the finished page. For example, you might have a character speaking off screen while action is taking place. You might have internal dialogue of a character while they're doing some menial sort of task. Or you could have a narrator outlining what's happening on the page or preempting some future action. In each of these cases, it helps to clearly outline what sort of text is being read. Now, there are a lot of great sources out there on the internets about the technical know-how of how to build a script. So feel free to go hunting and check them out. I won't put all the details here because frankly, that would be super boring, but there's a lot of information out there, so feel free to go grab it. However you build your script, remember to be consistent in how you use your wording and always aim for brevity and clarity. That point is worth saying again, brevity and clarity. Two things I knew nothing about when I first started my comic creation journey. In reality, you can write a script any way you want. As long as it gets the necessary message across to your artist, you're gold. I'll be digging a little further into the script writing process in a future video, but hopefully this has given you a good place to start. If you're writing your first comic script or considering it, let me know in the comments below. If you've got a question you'd like to ask, go for it. Also like and subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you'll be notified when I update with a new video on this and other interesting and intriguing topics. Also, don't forget to check out the Very Occasional podcast where I interview creative writers, artists, actors, directors, musicians, and more. And as always, keep it real, keep it safe.